the main gate of the most exclusive polo club in North America, a security guard's hand came up before the rider could speak.
This is a private club. You don't belong here.
I am on the list. Lucas Oliveira. Practice with Mr. Donovan.
Check the list. I know who belongs here, and you don't. Public areas that way.
Lucas did not argue. He backed his pony, turned and walked toward the parking lot. In his left hand hung a bamboo mallet, stained dark. Its head bore a single engraved digit, 10. In the parking lot, he swung onto the saddle, reins in hand. The chestnut pony exhaled and settled, scuffed brown boots in the stirrups, worn khaki jodhpurs. Everything about him said he had ridden since before he could walk.
15 years of this. They still see a color before a swing.
He rode slow figure eights on the asphalt, the mallet resting across his thigh, waiting. The mallet had been carved from Argentine bamboo, seasoned in the sun of the pampas. The 10 engraved on its head was not a jersey number. It was a handicap, the highest possible in polo.
Papa always said, "The number doesn't open gates, hijo. Your pony opens the gate."
In the world, only 11 living players held that rating. Lucas Oliveira was one of them. Born in Buenos Aires to a black Argentine father and a Brazilian mother, he was rarely recognized at U.S. clubs.
They expect a certain face. They get mine.
He had won the Argentine Open 3 times by the age of 25. His father, a former 8-goal player, had taught him that the mallet spoke louder than any introduction.
And yet, here, on a Sunday in Wellington, the mallet was silent.
He continued his circles, the pony's hooves echoing off the asphalt, as a silver sedan appeared at the club's distant gate. The silver sedan braked hard at the gate, and Patrick Donovan stepped out, staring toward the parking lot.
Lucas, why the hell are you saddled in a parking lot?
The security guard wouldn't let me through. Said I didn't belong.
Didn't belong? I scheduled this practice personally. Who is this guard?
He didn't check the roster. Just looked at me and sent me away.
Patrick's hands curled into fists. He turned and strode toward the gate without another word. At the booth, Kenneth was leaning against the doorframe, cup of coffee in hand.
You turned away my rider. Get the club manager out here. Now?
Kenneth's grip tightened on the mug. He didn't move.
I said now, or I'll make this call myself, and you can explain to the board.
Alan Whitfield, the club manager, came through the double doors at a near jog, tie flapping.
Mr. Donovan, I am so sorry. Our guard should have checked the visitor list immediately.
Sorry. My rider was humiliated. I won't set foot on your property.
He's not just angry, he's choosing a side.
He pulled out his phone and called his head groom. Load all 16 ponies. We're moving to Belhaven.
This is unnecessary. We can fix this.
Fix it? You can't unfire the bullet. Kenneth Briggs just lost you the biggest patron in the sport.
Kenneth stood behind the glass of his booth, coffee cold, watching the caravan form.
Let's go, Lucas. Belhaven will treat you like the champion you are.
16 ponies, 3 grooms, and 1 billionaire patron drove out past the guests only, sign without looking back. 2 miles away, the gates of Belhaven Polo Club swung open for the caravan. Lucas put the pony through its paces on a real field, the mallet swinging free.
I've moved my string to Belhaven. Wellington refused my rider at the gate because of his skin.
The Argentine patron on the other end let out a long breath. His reply was 2 words, "I am in." Within the hour, that patron called his stable manager. The string would move by morning. At the Wellington bar, patrons lowered their voices. Alan walked through and no one stopped him. Alan took 3 calls in 20 minutes. Each one asked the same question. What happened at the gate? Before sundown, a second Argentine patron called. He was moving his string to Belhaven.
Not one sideways glance. This is how it should be.
2 patrons had moved. 3 more were asking questions. The polo world would not stay quiet much longer. A tweet appeared. Wellington Polo Club just kicked out Argentine 10 gold champion Lucas Oliveira because he's black. 16 horses moved, more to follow. Within the hour, the post had been shared over 500 times. Alan Whitfield's office phone rang in 3 different cadences. He couldn't answer fast enough.
I am aware of the post. The board has called an emergency session for tonight.
The boardroom was stone quiet when he entered, faces like a jury.
The guard acted alone. We had no policy to exclude anyone. I can assure you of that.
But the board wanted Patrick Donovan back, and Patrick wasn't taking Alan's calls. In the security booth, Kenneth Briggs scrolled through the comments. His hands trembled.
They're all blaming me, but I was just doing my job.
The PR team drafted a holding statement, but the comments kept coming, faster than any statement could contain. After practice, a reporter caught Lucas at the rail. A dozen phones were recording. The question came bluntly. Do you feel humiliated by what happened at Wellington?
I am here to play polo. The rest doesn't touch the horse.
His voice was calm, but the words landed like a dart. The video spread faster than the tweet. In Buenos Aires, La Nación ran his photo on the front page. Orgullo Argentino. His father, Mateo, read it aloud at the kitchen table, voice trembling. His mother, Isabel, covered her mouth, tears slipping. Lucas saw the image on his phone. He stared at it a long moment, then exhaled.
They're proud. That's enough.
He pocketed the phone, picked up the mallet, and walked toward the pony, back straight. The noise could wait. The field was calling, and it wouldn't care about a tweet. Before sunrise, Alan Whitfield took a call that made his coffee go cold. It was a third Argentine patron. The voice on the other end was calm and final. I am moving my string to Belhaven. I won't stay where a champion is treated like a trespasser. 3 patrons had now withdrawn in less than 12 hours. The cascade had begun.
3 more patrons confirmed tonight. We've lost 4 in total.
The board demanded someone be held accountable. Alan was sent to the security booth.
Kenneth, you had no right to turn him away without checking the roster. You never called my office.
I was doing my job. They all looked the same to me.
Alan's hands went still at his sides. He realized no apology could fix this now. He turned and walked out, leaving Kenneth alone behind the glass. By noon, 4 patrons had gone. The Wellington Club was no longer a bastion of the sport. It was a cautionary tale. Patrick Donovan called a press conference at Belhaven that afternoon. Journalists packed the room, cameras ready.
Wellington owed my rider a basic courtesy. They refused. 4 patrons have now relocated.
Cameras clicked. Journalists leaned forward, phones recording. Patrick paused, then delivered the blow.
I am asking Belhaven to bid for the US Open. Wellington must apologize publicly, or I'll move the tournament.
Behind Patrick, Lucas stood with his mallet in hand. He said nothing. He didn't need to.
He doesn't need me to speak. The ultimatum says it all.
The room erupted. Within minutes, alerts pinged on every sports editor's phone. In Wellington, Alan Whitfield saw the live stream on his office monitor and closed his eyes. At the security booth, Kenneth's radio went silent. He knew his name would be in the headlines again. The gauntlet was on the ground now. The club had 72 hours to respond. The board assembled at dusk. Alan laid out the ultimatum. Silence filled the mahogany room.
We can terminate the guard immediately, but a public apology admits institutional bias. That could expose us legally.
The vote was unanimous. Kenneth Briggs would be dismissed, but the club would issue no formal apology.
Patrick, it's Alan Whitfield. We've let Kenneth Briggs go, effective immediately. I hope we can move past this.
Number. No apology. You've learned nothing.
The line went dead. Alan stared at the receiver, then lowered it slowly. In the security booth, Kenneth was handed a termination letter. His badge was taken.
20 years. For one call. They needed a scapegoat.
He packed his coffee mug, his logbook, and walked out past the guests' only sign for the last time. Wellington had chosen a sacrifice over an atonement. Patrick Donovan didn't answer another call. The US Open committee met behind closed doors. Patrick Donovan's sponsorship pull filled the air like ozone before lightning. The vote was 7-2. For the first time in its history, the US Open would be held outside Wellington. Alan Whitfield took the call in his darkening office. He didn't speak for a full minute.
They took the Open. They actually took it.
The US Open has a new home, one that respects every champion who steps onto its fields.
At Wellington, the grandstands yawned empty. The silence was louder than any match. The guests' only sign remained, but it was the club that now felt excluded from the sport it once ruled.
So it really happened. The gate closed on them, not on me.
At Belhaven, crews raised the US Open banner. Workers measured for hospitality tents. A single shove at a gate had moved the center of American Polo 2 miles down the road. Nothing would be the same. As the US Open date neared, every news outlet wanted Lucas Oliveira. He gave them one answer. A reporter called out the question everyone wanted answered. Do you hold a grudge against Wellington?
I hold the reign, not the grudge.
The clip was shared 500,000 times before nightfall. People leaned toward his quiet dignity.
They're listening now, not because I am angry, but because I am not.
He's the best player I've ever backed. More than that, he's pure class.
Each morning he rode at dawn, away from the cameras, Mallet finding the ball before the sun found the grass. His graciousness unsettled the critics. They had expected rage. He offered a lesson. The hashtag number Lucas Oliveira trended for 2 days. Not for the scandal, for the grace. As the tournament gates opened, Lucas wasn't just the story of the Open. He was its conscience. The first match of the US Open opened under a high sun. Lucas Oliveira took the field with a calm that unsettled his opponents. He scored 3 times in the opening chukka, each goal a study in precision. His teammates crowded him at the whistle, shouting his name. The crowd answered.
They're talking about you, Lucas. Not just the goals, the way you carry yourself.
If I win this tournament, I want to say something. Something for everyone who's been stopped at a gate.
Patrick set down his glass and met Lucas's eyes. He didn't ask for details. He simply nodded.
Papa said the mallet speaks, but sometimes the voice must too.
That night, Lucas drilled alone under the floodlights. The mallet connected with the ball like a metronome. He was sweating through his shirt, but his focus never wavered. He advanced to the quarterfinals, but the real test wouldn't be on horseback. It would be at the podium. The quarterfinal match stretched into a 6th chukka. The score was tied. Every swing carried the weight of a tournament. In the final seconds of overtime, Lucas broke free. He leaned forward, and the mallet connected with a sound like a door slamming shut. The ball shot through the posts. His teammates descended, a pile of dust and sweat and screaming joy. Miles away, in a dim living room, Kenneth Briggs sat alone. The television was tuned to the Open. The halftime host didn't mention his name this time, but the footage showed the gate, the shove, the yellow sign.
They're still showing that gate, still.
He reached for the remote and lowered the volume, but he couldn't look away.
20 years on that booth, one Sunday, and they'll never forget it.
At the team tent, Lucas drank water, his face calm, sweat mixing with dust. He hadn't seen the broadcast. He advanced to the semifinals, one match away from a podium that would carry his voice further than any gate could stop. Before the semifinal, Lucas sat alone in the locker room. His helmet rested beside him, the mallet across his knees.
Papa said, let the mallet speak, but sometimes the voice must too.
He stood, put on the helmet, and walked toward the tunnel where the roar was already deafening. The grandstands at Belhaven were a wall of noise. Argentine flags waved among the crowd. On the field, the match was brutal. Ponies thundered, mallets clashed. At the end of the 5th chukka, they were down by 1. Lucas took a deep breath before the sixth chucka. The pony turned almost by instinct, and he let it run. He scored twice in quick succession. The second goal came off a near impossible angle from the near side. The final whistle blew. His teammates hoisted him up. The scoreboard told the story.
One more match.
Lucas Oliveira had reached the final of the US Open. Now only the podium awaited. On the eve of the US Open final, every camera in the sport sought Lucas Oliveira. The interview tent was a gauntlet of microphones. A reporter leaned forward with the question everyone had been holding. Lucas, any message for those who doubted you?
I'll let the final speak, then I'll speak.
The answer fed a dozen headlines. Speculation flooded social media, but Lucas said nothing more. That same afternoon, a journalist knocked on Kenneth Briggs's door in West Palm Beach.
No comment. I've got nothing to say. Just leave me alone.
The door shut hard. Through the window, his silhouette stood still, one hand pressed to the wall. At Belle Haven, Lucas walked past the empty trophy room, pausing at the glass case. The US Open trophy waited inside.
After tomorrow, they'll all know why I stayed silent.
The final was hours away. The polo world held its breath. The US Open final began under a sun that turned the grass white. Ponies thundered, and mallets cracked like rifles. Each chucka was a war of inches. Lucas was marked by every opponent, but he found space where none existed. In the final chucka, with the score tied, he broke through. The near-side swing came from a wrist turn no coach could teach. The ball flew through the posts. The stadium erupted. The noise was a physical force. His teammates surrounded him before the pony stopped moving. A tangle of arms, helmets, and raw relief. Argentine flags swayed in the grandstand. Somewhere in the crowd, a voice shouted "Orgullo" until it broke. The final score hung on the board like a verdict. His team had won by a single goal.
We did it. Now for the rest.
The US Open trophy was placed in his hands. Silver, heavy, engraved with names he had once only read. He looked at the cameras, the microphones already assembled. The moment he had promised was here. Lucas stepped to the microphones, the US Open trophy beside him. A hush fell over the stadium.
First, I want to thank my team, my family, and Patrick Donovan for believing in me.
He paused. The pause stretched, the silence in the stadium growing heavier.
And I also want to thank Kenneth Briggs, the security guard at the Wellington Polo Club.
The crowd went silent, then a wave of murmurs and scattered gasps rolled through the grandstand.
Without his spectacular real estate decision, this tournament wouldn't be here today. So, thank you.
He raised the trophy high. The stadium erupted, a roar that swallowed the earlier silence whole. Lucas kept his face calm, the trophy steady above his head. He had said exactly what he'd planned. On national television, the chyron read, "Lucas Oliveira dedicates victory to guard who ejected him." He had not raised his voice. He did not need to. In a dim living room, the television announcer repeated Lucas Oliveira's words, each syllable falling like a hammer. Kenneth Briggs sat motionless on the couch, the remote in his lap, the screen throwing blue shadows across his face.
He thanked me. On national television. He thanked me.
He reached forward and pressed the power button. The room dropped into silence and shadow.
I didn't even look at his face that day. Now everyone knows my name.
At the Wellington Club offices, Alan Whitfield stared at the morning newspaper. The headline read, "Champion thanks guard who kicked him out."
He didn't shout, he didn't sue, he just waited.
He looked out the window at the Wellington field. Empty grandstands, overgrown grass. The club that had once hosted the US Open now couldn't host a whisper. A single shove at a gate had done all this. And Lucas Oliveira had just thanked the man who pushed him. Hours later, in a quiet hotel suite, Lucas Oliveira's mother and father held him for a long moment. His father, Mateo, spoke first, voice thick. "You let the mallet speak. Then you spoke. I have never been prouder.
He was right. All those years of silent lessons paid off tonight.
He thought of the dusty field in Buenos Aires where he first swung a mallet, his father's voice. Again, hijo, the pony trusts you. After they left, Lucas sat alone with the trophy. It was heavy, but not as heavy as the memory of that parking lot. He picked up his mallet and traced the engraved 10 with a thumb, the number that had been invisible, to a man at a gate.
The gate tried to stop me. It only cleared the path.
He set the mallet beside the trophy. 2 symbols of something no guard could ever take. Lucas closed his eyes. The noise of the stadium was gone. Only quiet remained. He had done what he came to do, on the field and off it. Within a month, the Wellington Club lost its final major sponsor. A for sale sign appeared at the gate. The guests only sign remained, but the gates had been locked for weeks. Kenneth Briggs walked past those gates one last time in civilian clothes, head down against the morning light.
All that time behind the glass, and I never looked through it.
2 weeks later, Lucas Oliveira stood in a dusty arena at a youth polo clinic, mallet in hand, surrounded by children.
Again, Pequeño. The pony trusts you.
They laughed when he missed a shot on purpose, and he laughed with them. He had become more than a champion. He was a bridge. Later, he rode alone at sunset, the pony's hooves quiet on the turf. The gate was behind him. The field was open. At dawn, Lucas galloped alone across the open turf, the mallet held high, the number 10 catching the first light.
No gate ahead. Only grass and sky.
He pulled the pony to a stop on a low rise, the sun spilling gold behind him. The mallet hung in the air for a moment, and the world seemed to hold its shape. He lowered it slowly, looking at the engraved digit.
They see it now. That's all that matters.
The gates that try to stop you only clear the path. He turned the pony toward the rising sun and trotted forward. The mallet rested across his thigh, the number 10 facing the sky, and the field stretched on, open and endless.